play this record as frequently as possible.
Gotta get right when it's down. One thing running, get a med. Everyone now it's down. No second guessing, I gotta get ready.
What is going on, you guys? It is your boy Vergil here, and welcome back to another episode here on Dragon Ball Legends. Today, I have a very special video for you guys. I'm going to be breaking down all the best in-game mechanics and abilities that currently exist in Dragon Ball Legends. And it's very important to know this type of information just to kind of gauge out and know what to expect when seeing new units, new kits, and what really makes a unit the best, and if it's worth summoning for, or what to invest for a team, and all this good stuff. You know, if you want the most powerful and know what the most powerful abilities are, we're going to be breaking down all the best ones in this video here today. Make sure to drop a like before we jump in, and do subscribe if you do happen to be new to the channel, because I do upload every single day here with Legends content. And without further ado, I'm not going to waste any time. I have a lot of different mechanics and abilities that I do want to cover in this video and give many examples and vice versa. I also probably at the end of the video, I'll talk about a couple of leaks that we might be seeing for Legends Fest regarding new mechanics and abilities that could also be really broken. And it's important to understand why these abilities are and do what they do, just because it helps you win games, right? Alright, the first mechanic that I do want to cover in this video is going to be the revival mechanic. If a unit does drop and has a revival in it, or a part of his kit, it's just going to be a huge bonus, a huge plus usually, just because it is a huge safety net for when a unit's about to die. You can sack off this first life of a character, and you're going to be pretty much brought back to life. And usually it's a stronger variant of the character when he does revive. Could be a transforming variant, specifically like these this revival go on here. All these characters that you see on the screen right now are revival type characters. They have that first life. Once the HP bar is depleted, they gain a part or completely a new life to make access of. It's pretty much a whole nother character, right? So if you have a revival character, you're at a advantage at that point, right? To kind of gauge it, right, this is the first life of the revival go on here. Looking at his stats, as soon as he does revive, it's basically he does transform into Super Saiyan 2. He does increase his stats quite a bit. Stats are very important in this game, and to have your stats jump up this much is kind of crazy, right? You're not going to get your full HP bar back, but you do get access to a lot of other abilities and mechanics once he does transform. But the first life is not something to just throw away because it is a safety net. You can sack off a unit to Rising Rush and all that. I would. That's what you should probably do in most cases, but you do want to make the full effect of a unit's first life. I'm just thinking of Revival Gohan specifically. He does have a main ability that heals his allies. He does have manipulation for sub count, which is also pretty impactful. His support is pretty good. But yeah, all these units do have revival, and I do think when, you know, a new unit that drops revival, you definitely want to have that in mind and consider this is really going to make this unit really good, just because it is an extra net for when a unit's about to die or even get Rising Rush. You have another chance at surviving and existing, right? So revival mechanic is a very powerful ability and mechanic. I do, you know, suggest to in the future. There's not really too many in this game, but this kind of is going to move us into our next ability here. Alright, jumping into our next mechanic here that I do want to talk about is going to be Dragon Ball Manipulation. This does and is one of the more powerful abilities in this game, just because Rising Rush is so frequently prevalent, right? It's so normal, like you can gain your Rising Rush very fast normally without any manipulation. So to have a method of either increasing the speeds or reducing the speed of your opponent gaining a Rising Rush can really make or break a game. And you know, there's different forms of Dragon Ball manipulation, whether it is stealing Dragon Balls from your opponent, gaining Dragon Balls, or even reducing your enemy's Dragon Balls. And all these characters do on the screen do have some form of this Dragon Ball manipulation, and I'm pretty much going to cover every single one of them here. So that Frieza that I do have clicked here, the full power Frieza, basically, if you guys were playing a couple months ago, the LOE meta was extremely toxic because of the fact that this guy, every time he did enter the battlefield, as you can see here, restores zone ki by 30 and then reduces enemy Dragon Balls by 1. It activated 3 times. So on a normal instances, you're normally getting Dragon Balls very fast, so you're going to get your Rising Rush a lot quicker than your opponent. And then this guy's reducing your enemy. So in a lot of cases, if you're facing an LOE team, you basically would not be able to Rising Rush until the end of the game. And at that point, it would already be too late because you would be at such a disadvantage. You would probably not even, you would have maybe one unit left over. And he was always ran with this guy, this Revival Frieza, who also has, gaining Dragon Balls, some form of Dragon Ball manipulation in that first form Frieza, which did reduce sub count, which allowed this full power Frieza to continuously join the battlefield very, very early and continue stealing your Dragon Balls, right? The Cell right here, he does have, I believe, every time he does enter the battlefield for like the first 2 or 3 times, he does reduce an enemy Dragon Ball, if I'm not mistaken. So applies the following effects to enemy when changing cover. So he reduces, randomly destroys 1 card, which is really powerful as well. It's another really good mechanic, but reduces Dragon Balls by 1, activates twice. So at the beginning of a match, you're cover changing with him, you're slowing down the process of, your opponent rising rushing, you're reducing enemy Dragon Balls by 1, which is really, really good. On top of that, he actually does have another form of Dragon Ball manipulation, which is embedded in his anti-revival mechanic. Kind of what we were talking about in that first, revival is very, very powerful. There are characters in this game with anti-revival mechanics, which is another, we're just talking about mechanics within powerful mechanics, but yeah, anti-revival mechanic is very powerful, just for the fact that if you are faced with a unit that has revival and you're able to kill that unit off with this character, you're basically able to proc all these abilities, including Dragon Ball manipulation. You're reducing your enemy Dragon Balls by 4. 4 Dragon Balls is actually kind of huge. You also reduce ki by 100, inflicts attribute downgrade, minus 150% ki recovery for 3 counts. So, just another, mechanic thrown in there. Anti-revival is very powerful, but more Dragon Ball manipulation here. You're stopping another rush from potentially occurring. Obviously it's not going to matter if your opponent doesn't have any Dragon Balls, but you are procting these other abilities of reduced ki and attribute downgrade, which is a debuff for 3 seconds. You're able to make a quick play there just because your opponent isn't going to have any ki to do anything. But yet another unit right here. Gogeta 4 does have Dragon Ball manipulation and a form of anti-revival. If you check it out right here, if you go to his ability right here, so this is his anti-revival mechanic. He increases Dragon Balls by 2 when he procs a revival character and restores health by 20%. So he's gaining Dragon Balls by 2 if you're able to kill off any of these characters, a revival Frieza, a revival Gohan, Goku, Cell, any of those characters, and basically you're going to be gaining some Dragon Balls. On top of that, he did gain access to his own unique equipment, which increased this anti-revival ability, which revival disruption here increases Dragon Balls by another 2, so you're gaining 4 if you're procting a unit's revival. You're actually getting 4 Dragon Balls instead if you did get this red slot here on this equipment, and then another 50% to your damage inflicted, which is kind of ridiculous. So anti-revival Dragon Ball manipulation is very, very crazy. Blue Boys, I believe, has another form of anti-revival, right? I actually did not plan to add the anti-revival segment here, but yeah, this is just 2 birds with 1 stone here. So basically, if you proc a unit's revival with this character, you're increasing your own Dragon Balls by 2, and you're also reducing your enemy's Dragon Balls by 2. So you're speeding up your Rising Rush, you're slowing down your enemy's Rising Rush. It's pretty cool. We do have Revival Frieza here. I believe when he does transform, as you can see here, his stats go up a lot. So he's transforming, he's reviving. Units with revivals just have so much prowess there. But he reduces enemy Dragon Balls by 2 with his main ability after his transformation. He also shortens ally sub count, which is another very powerful ability there. And then to touch on androids here, these guys had their time to shine for so much time after the release, a couple of months after the release, and they were just so freaking powerful. I think still to this day, individually, these characters just have so much embedded into their kit, with their green card, with their tag switch mechanic, which we will cover later in this video. But basically, they do have Dragon Ball manipulation every time 18 side of the tag switch, where 18 is tag switching back into 17. This activates 3 times and reduces your enemy Dragon Balls by 1. So you are just slowing down the process of your enemy's Dragon Balls, which does reduce the speed of their Rising Rush. But on top of that, the androids are going to lead us into our next segment, our next mechanic, which does happen to be Nullify Endurance for Existing, right? So if we do check out within their kits, so nullifies enemies, restores health when it reaches 0. Effects when this character attacks cannot be canceled. So basically, you're not going to be able to stop this just for existing, right? This character just on the field, if you land a Rising Rush with this character and it's not a revival unit, it's going to kill your opponent, right? So that's what another mechanic that really made this character powerful, which makes a lot of different characters powerful. That does apply to this Frieza as well, which I was talking about before. He had a form of Dragon Ball manipulation. On top of that, he also has the same ability, which is nullify endurance, right? If you're able to nullify endurance, it means that you're going to be able to kill that safety net off here. As you can see, nullifies enemies restore health when it reaches 0, so that is the endurance right there. And you know, a couple of other units do have access to this ability. I believe it is the Rose here, right? This Rose has this ability. It's the same exact thing. You know, if you get a Rising Rush off with this character, basically nullifies enemies, restore health when it reaches 0. You're going to be able to kill off an enemy. The character's not so good at the very moment, but whenever he does get a Zenkai, it's going to be extremely valuable. Some units, like this Cooler right here, isn't given just for existing, right? A lot of characters have the ability to nullify endurance based off their ultimate or different other forms and means, but not by existing. This Cooler right here, I believe when he pops his main ability, for a total of 20 counts, you nullify endurance for existing, right? So even if you, you know, for 20 counts, if you pop your ultimate or do anything, for 20 counts after you pop your main ability here with Cooler, you're going to be able to kill an endurance unit just for existing, but it is only for 20 counts, right? So you can pop your main, then Rising Rush, pop your main and ultimate, pop your main, do a combo ultimate, anything of the sort. The safety net is not going to matter anymore. Probably would have been cool to cover endurance before this topic, but I guess we can cover endurance right after this. All right, jumping into our next mechanic here, it kind of, you know, bounces off the last mechanic we were just talking about in nullifying endurance and whatnot. Endurance is one of the most powerful mechanics in the game. Similar to Revival, we actually do have more endurance units in the game and more ways to either have just endurance for existing, like some units just flat out have endurance embedded in their kit. Like this Future Gohan right here, basically he has another life. When you his health reaches 0, he gets a portion of that health back. And you know, a lot of units have this, but have means in order to get it, if that makes sense. It's very similar to Revival. Basically, you just get another life. There's a lot more units in this game that nullify endurance than they do Revival, so that's why at the very current moment, Revival sort of has more value than endurance overall, but a lot of the endurance units in this game currently are a lot better than the Revival units that exist in this game, if that makes any sense. But yeah, this Future Gohan has endurance for existing, so units like this, basically, you don't really have to do anything to proc this endurance. Same thing goes for this Topo, right? If you go to their kits, it's going to say, restore zone health by 30% only when it reaches 0, right? Something like that of those lines. For Future Gohan, it's to restore zone health by 40% only when it reaches 0. So that's the form of endurance. You know, he's not transforming or anything. His stats are not increasing. He's not gaining extra abilities, which a lot of Revival characters do gain access to after procking their second life. This is more so after you deplete that first health bar, you are getting another portion of another health bar. For this Trunks right here, he does have endurance, but it is situational. You need, in order to have his endurance, you need to run him with 2 Future units or 2 Vegeta Clan units, I believe, right here. So, applies falling effects itself if there are 2 or more Vegeta Clan or Future battle members. So you restore own health by 25 only when it reaches 0, which is really good. Charges your own unit gauge by 100%. Unit gauge, another mechanic we will be talking about later in the video, but endurance situationally. This Gohan is a unit that this is the first time I'm really talking about Gohan here, but if I had to say or pick out the most perfect unit in this game with the most powerful abilities and mechanics, it is going to be this Gohan. He pretty much has everything that we're covering in this video. Not literally everything, but about like 90 to 95% of abilities and mechanics you would want to have on a busted unit, this guy does have. So that goes for the cover null, the endurance, the type neutrality, just the list goes on and on and on. But I will continuously, like when we break down further mechanics, you'll just see this guy pretty much featured everywhere, and I could even mention him just because he has so much. This Beast Gohan basically procced his endurance whenever the enemy uses Rising Rush. So this Bardock is the unit I was thinking of, Dead Ally, right? So this Gohan right here, basically every time your enemy uses a Rising Rush, it doesn't need to land. It doesn't need to hit. It doesn't need to kill a unit. It could kill a unit. But basically, you're able to throw this Gohan into the Rising Rush just because he'll gain access to that endurance after your enemy procs a Rising Rush. So if you go to his kit right here, you're going to see it applies the following effects to self when enemy activates Rising Rush. It only activates once. You restore his own health by 30% and restore his own health another by 30% only once when it reaches 0. So not only are you getting 30% after the Rising Rush is procted, if it does reach 0, you're getting another 30%, which is that endurance. For MUI Goku here, he has last man standing endurance, so if he's the very last character on the battlefield for you, he is going to get that extra percentage of health, which is very good in a lot of situations to clutch it up. If unfortunately you just had unlucky situations and your last guy is this MUI Goku here, as you can see, where is it? So restores health by 40% only when it reaches 0, but this only applies after there's 2 allies defeated. So last man standing endurance. This Bardock is the one I was talking about before, where you need 1 dead ally for it to proc his endurance. So basically, you can't throw him into a Rising Rush and have your endurance similar to the Beast Gohan. For Beast, you can, as soon as your enemy Rising Rushes, you're getting endurance. For Bardock here specifically, basically you need a dead ally for it to happen. So it's once one of your units does die, this Bardock will now have an extra percentage of his life. Applies the following effects to yourself when one allied character is defeated. He does get that 25% of health only once when it reaches 0. Very powerful ability. Some units have it for existing, and then there's other units that gain access to it after something occurs or you need to meet certain requirements for this endurance to exist. But very similar to Revival as well. A lot of means to disrupt this, right? There's units that we were just talking about that have Nullify endurance for existing or can proc that ability. So these guys are susceptible to still being killed by Rising Rush. If you got rushed by androids, if you got rushed by Full Power Frieza, Rose, Goku Black, this future Gohan's going to die. All these units will pretty much die, because they nullify. It doesn't matter if their endurance is procted or not. So Revival is still the better safety net at the moment, with the only existing unit to nullify Revival is this guy, right? Nullify Revival is another very powerful mechanic, just because there is very few. This is the only unit that can do it in the entire game. The only thing with Revival right now is that there are not too many valid Revival characters. The only one I could really think of is the transforming Super Saiyan 2 Revival Gohan. He's on the best team in the game. He's a year old at this point, but he still can carry his own. This guy's able to nullify that Revival, right? We'll probably see more of this ability once we do get more Revival characters in the future. But since we're on this character, it's going to move us on to our next mechanic. Jumping into our next mechanic here, we got cover nullification, right? If you don't already know what cover change is, which you probably should already know, but that is another powerful mechanic. Pretty much every single, not every single unit, but about 90% of relevant units have some form of cover change, whether if it's strike or blast cover change. This Broly right here actually has, the mechanic to cover change against blue cards as well as strike and blast. So cover change, I'll just throw that out there very quickly. It's a way to swap and able to stop a combo from going if you cover it immediately when an opponent does a strike blast or a blue card, being in Broly's case, right? But cover nullification specifically is a way to not have your opponent be able to cover change in many instances, right? Every single unit you see here has a way of cover changing, right? So when you pop Beerus's main ability here, so applies the buff effect, nullifies enemy special actions that activate when changing cover to self for 30 timer count. So for 30 counts after you pop his main ability, which is very quick because you can pop this 5 timer counts after the match has started, you're able to continuously, don't have to worry about cover changes with combos. And this is a very, very powerful ability just because you're able to farm Dragon Balls. You're able to continue dealing damage, extending combos, and you don't have to worry about an enemy swapping in and stopping that combo, right? This Broly right here, obviously, like I said, he has multiple ways to cover change, but his gauge, his unique gauge also, we will be breaking down unique gauges further in this video, but one of his abilities that he gains access when he fills up his unique gauge is to nullify enemy special actions to activate changing cover for 10 timer counts. So every time he fills up his gauge, pops that unique gauge, basically you get 10 timer counts of not having to worry about your enemy cover changing. This Dragon Fist right here, 2 times I believe for 5 counts. If I'm not mistaken, he nullifies when this character enters the battlefield, applies buff effect, nullify enemies' special actions that activate when changing cover for 10 counts. So He nullifies cover change for 10 timer counts, and it activates twice the first 2 times he enters the battlefield. So nullifying cover is just to continue your priority that you do have, right? This cooler does have the same ability via his main ability here. So he nullifies cover change for 20 counts on main ability. We were talking about him a little bit ago. You know, he has the fact to nullify endurance off the main. He has a bunch of other things that we will discuss as well in this video. Gohan gets this ability once he fills up his unique gauge as well. Unique gauge we will continue to talk about in the future. It's hard to break down mechanics when you want to talk about all the mechanics at one given moment. But yeah, unique gauges are a great thing, and they do have access to many different mechanics and abilities. Specifically changing or nullify cover change is very, very powerful here. But the androids also do have this as well on their green card. Probably the most powerful green card in the entire game. Has a multitude of mechanics and abilities. One of them being nullify cover change for 10 timer counts. Whether you pop this green card with Android 17 or 18 within this tag switch, you're getting damage inflicted. You're getting -1 to Arts card draw speed. Getting all this crazy stuff. With 18, it's different, right? You get different abilities here, so we'll be talking about that a little later on. But nullify cover change is something that you do want to have on your most broken character. You know, extending combos. Moving on to our next mechanic here, we do have Vanish Restore Speed, and this is, you know, I feel like I've been saying this about every single mechanic here, but this is a extremely important and powerful mechanic, right? If you're able to quickly gain your Vanish back, or even immediately gain your Vanish back, it just has the opportunity and potential to make some ridiculous and insane plays. You know, just constantly having priority over your enemy because you're able to vanish multiple times, right? And all these characters do have it that you see some form of recovery of Vanish, or even instantly gaining 100% of your Vanish back. And yeah, this is if your unit does have, or a unit that does come out in the future that has some form of Vanish recovery or gain, it is just going to be extremely busted, right? For the Gohan specifically, I feel like I've said this before in this video, but he does have access to the majority of the most broken mechanics. When you do, he has a multitude of different ways to restore this vanishing gauge here. When you do have your gauge pretty much filled up here, so if unique gauge is full and you pop a blue card, he restores vanishing gauge by 70%, right? So this does tie down to his unique gauge. We will talk more in the future of the video. Unique gauges procced all these different abilities that are able to happen, right? You can see the difference. It has a different set of abilities if unique gauge is not full, but if it is, he has a way of restoring his Vanish by 70%. If you restore 100%, you're able to vanish another time there. If unique gauge is full here as well, you're able to restore your Vanish by 70% on green cards. So not only on your blue, but also on your green card here for Beast. And then even on your ultimate, I believe. So also applies the following effects to self if there is a defeated battle member. If you have one dead battle member with Beast, you're able to restore your Vanishing Gauge by 70% when you pop his ultimate here. That is 3 different ways to restore Vanish. This Kid Buu right here, right? He has a way to, what is it? His green card here, right? So, restores own Vanishing Gauge by 60%, activates 4 times. So he was one of the original units to receive this ability that became very, very powerful. So it only has a limit of 4 times, but within that 4 times, this Vanishing Gauge restores very, very quickly, and you're able to constantly have that priority. On top of that, you're getting damage inflicted, you're getting card draw speed, and all these other different abilities, mechanics, all that stuff. But this is definitely one of the more iconic units to have the infinite vanish, so to speak. Mechanic, infinite amount of vanishes, and so does this Yajirobe. Has like a very similar ability here. It's embedded in his kits, if I'm not mistaken. So restores own Vanishing Gauge by 60% when this character evades an enemy attack with Vanishing Step, activates 3 times. It's just innate in his kit for 3 times in the match. If you pop a Vanish or a Vanish with Yajirobe, 60% of it is just immediately going to be able to be restored very, very quickly there. So very similar to the Kid Buu here, except that you have the same amount of times, right? 4 times, activates 4 times, but you have to pop the green card with Buu to restore your own Vanish by 60%. So it's not any type of speed, vanishing speed recovery. It's more it restores immediately your 60% of your Vanish. So 60% is pretty good. You could just float around until you get that full 100% completed, or you might have already had the 40% pop the green, and then that rest of that 60% completes the 100% of Vanish. So moving into blue boys here, they do have a form of restore. I believe it's with their blue card here. So when you pop their blue, it restores on Vanish engaged by 70%. So there's just unlimited amounts of vanishes and plays, different plays. If you pop your green into blue, the Goku and Vegeta both have one of these blue card gains with the green, right? You're able to get a blue card off of each of them one time, and then that basically means 2 extra vanishes if you can utilize it with their blue cards here, as you can see. Moving on to the Piccolo and USV here, they have a different form of this. They immediately 100% get their Vanish back off main ability. So as you guys can see here, if you do proc their main ability here, he does, where does it say? Restores on Vanish engaged by 100%. So it isn't any speed, any percentage other than he completely restores. So if you pop your Vanish, pop your main ability, you're immediately going to have your full, able to vanish immediately right after, which makes for just a ridiculous amount of plays. And if you have the patience, or you're just able to adapt to your opponent very easily, then you're able, you're going to be able to make the ridiculous amount of plays of priority and just endless amount of situations. And the Piccolo has the same exact ability on main ability here. He gets to restore his own Vanish engage by 100%. So these all have, similar things. This new Goku, just to touch on one more unit that does have something similar, is, other units do have this ability, but on his green card here, as you can see, the following effects occur. Restores own Vanish engaged by 70%. There's different units that do have Vanish Restore, but Vanish, when you're able to restore your Vanish and Vanish again, it just makes for insane play. So I do think this is probably one of the most broken mechanics in the game. I probably put this on the top 5 to 3 list. If you're able to multitude of restores Vanish, this is one of the best abilities in the game. Our next mechanic that I'm going to be covering here is lock-ins. Another very powerful, very busted mechanic. Not too many characters actually have this mechanic just because of how ridiculous it is. You can guarantee yourself either a kill or a certain play if you use this mechanic wisely, but it all boils down to like the beginning of the game with this Bardock had this mechanic, and this is probably one of the first characters to exist in this game. With his main ability, he inflicts all enemies with no switching for 10 timer counts, so you're able to immediately just kill a unit or rising rush a character if you have him locked in and you have priority. So yeah, lock-ins can be very disgusting. And move down to the toxicity of this Fat Boo. He has the exact same thing, I believe, on his main ability. Is it not on his main? Oh, it's every time he swaps in, excuse me. So it's not on his main, similar to Bardock. I believe it's for 2 times every time he enters the battlefield. Right here. So inflicts with no switching for 5 counts, activates 3 times. So, unlike Bardock, right, you can kind of time whenever you want to use his main ability, and it's for 10 timer counts. For this Majin Buu, it has the same ability for 5 counts, but you're activating it 3 times every time he enters the battlefield. So if you're able to swap into him and guarantee yourself a kill with priority, your opponent won't be able to switch to an endurance unit, a revival unit, or even someone they want to sack off just because they are locked in and ready to be killed. This Hercule, I'm going to cover Hercule last specifically, but he does have access, pretty much the same thing to this no switching for 10 timer counts on his main abilities. Not like the main reason he's used, but that lock-in, like I said, is also very, very powerful, so could be considered that. I'm going to be talking about this other mechanic here just on the side. It's very similar to lock-in, but it is a different form of lock-in. So this first one right here is a lock-in, but it isn't... it's only on the ultimate here. So on this Vegeta, he has inflicts all enemies with no switching for 3 timer counts, only when you're popping your main, your ultimate ability here. So pretty much with units that can be killed off this damage. It doesn't nullify endurance, unfortunately, right? You can't nullify endurance off this, which is very interesting for them not to give it to him with his Zenkai. But he does have a form of no switching, so the lock-in, and pretty much has a snipe potential. The way this guy ramps up damage normally with every strike or blast card he uses, he's going to be doing a lot of damage, and then he's able to nuke or potentially snipe and kill a unit with this lock-in ability on his ultimate. So very powerful ability. This Cooler right here actually doesn't have a lock-in, but he has another mechanic, very powerful mechanic called sub count up, right? So every time he he lands these first set of strike arts. He increases the substitution count of your enemy characters. The following effects occur upon landing a strike arts hit. So after landing a strike arts hit, you're inflicting your enemy with 2 to their substitution count. So basically, they're not going to be able to switch out to someone that they want to sack off, or you're basically locking them in for a rising rush or for a guaranteed kill on their end as well. So I can consider substitution count up as a very powerful mechanic and very close to the lock-in itself. Before I move on to the next segment here, there was this one more unit, probably the most relevant unit out of all the characters that have the potential to lock in, is the Ultra Super Gogeta here. Very similar to the other characters that I did mention in with lock-ins. This dude does have a means of locking in and, killing your character. So basically, he does need a dead ally. So once he does have a dead ally, he pretty much locks in. When 2 allies are defeated, let me see if I can. He does everything in the book. A lot of these characters just have all of these broken abilities, as you can see here. He does go type neutral. Right here, when you have a defeated battle member, all you need is 1 defeated battle member. He inflicts all enemies with no switching for 5 timer counts, activates twice. So if you want to make the full use of it, he goes type neutral and he locks you in for 5 counts. When he's last man standing, in a lot of situations, you're last man and you have access still to the no switching and the type neutral, you're getting an extra ultimate. This man, Ultra Gogeta, is definitely, I could not forget to mention him in this video, but he is the best lock-in character in the game currently, I believe, from all the characters I did mention. Like, that actually, has the ability, inflicts all enemies with no switching in specific to that, right? So as soon as he has a dead ally, you're able to lock in a character and it just immediately kill them, right? Especially if you've taken out their Vanish, just go for either the ultimate or your rising rush. After you pop ultimate as well, you do get endurance nullification. So this guy has a busted lock-in mechanic. But other than this lock-in, Vergil's main purpose for existing is that he applies the following effects to self or to all enemies when this character enters the battlefield, activates twice. He has a 100% chance to inflict strong poison and a 100% chance to inflict paralyze, right? There's other characters that have this ability and can utilize poison and paralyze as well, but this guy, this is the reason for his existence, 100% of it. So it's pretty much a lot of RNG. There's no telling when the paralyze will activate. Poison just deals damage, but of course, if you're locking in a character with your main ability and you have them unable to move, that's what paralyze does. Randomly, it only occurs randomly. You're pretty much guaranteeing yourself kills as well. Like I said, it is random, so if you're able to have Cooler and this Vergil on a team together where you're locking in your characters via their sub counts increasing and then them not being able to move, it's just a toxic combination. So Paralyze being another ridiculous mechanic in this game. Vergil, pretty notorious for being like the paralyzed guy. There are other characters that have this ability, but nobody does it quite like them. I mean, other than that, this, Vergil is pretty much useless. So you want to activate, lock in, paralyze immediately, and pretty much knock out characters as soon as possible with this character. So moving into our next broken mechanic, and it's going to be type neutrality, right? To have a unit to go type neutral means they are not at a disadvantage on a color typing, right? So we're pretty much going to be at a certain standpoint where you're not going to take any more damage, save if you're a yellow unit, you're facing a red unit, and you're type neutral at this point, you're not taking any type disadvantage damage, right? You're just taking type neutral damage for a certain amount of counts. And there's some units that gain it in different manners, or by popping main abilities, or by being or having an ally dead, and so on and such, right? So first unit, we got Future Go on here. He does go type neutral, but he does need a dead ally to have a certain amount of times for his type neutrality. But it does make accessible for a lot of different clutch plays and comeback plays, just because he won't be at a disadvantage despite whatever color he is facing. So he's got to make the most out of this type neutrality. Nullifies unfavorable element factors for 15 timer counts, activates twice, and this only occurs after there's a defeated battle member, right? So if you have one dead ally, you go type neutral. If you lose that other dead ally, you have one more opportunity to be type neutral, so you can go in 2 swaps for 15 timer counts, 30 counts to make a difference and have a comeback mechanic. This number 1 Vegeta, I believe it's on main ability. Could be completely wrong here, but it is. So nullifies own unfavorable element factors for 30 counts. as a support unit, as a unit that just wants to reduce sub counts, do all these other niche technical supportive capabilities. Type neutral is a very good thing, so he's able to soak up damage from a multitude of different characters. This Pan right now is very, very valuable and, the perfect partner for this Beast Gohan. For the main reason of her going type neutral, you don't actually have to worry about her, running into Beast Gohans for 60 counts. So she nullifies her element factor for 60 counts after she pops her main ability, along with all these other niche abilities that she does get. But 60 timer counts is a very long time to have type neutral, and she's able to do pretty good damage against blue units or whatever the case is because of the neutrality, right? This cooler does have situational type neutral as well. His is basically he does need to come in or have your opponent have a Super Saiyan in battle, which is very, very common, right? You're going to see Future Gohan in a ton of games. You're going to see Ultra Vegito, Ultra Gogeta. If you see a Super Saiyan on an opposing team and you do have cooler, might as well bring him in, because as long as that unit is somewhere in the battle, it doesn't even need to be in front of you, it could be on standby. This cooler is able to go type neutral immediately, which makes him a menace completely, right? When he released, it was more so. As of right now in the meta, it's quite difficult if you're continuously facing Beast Gohan and Pan. Just in general, I'd say cooler facing Super Saiyans, going type neutral, having that sub count up with the lock-in on Strike is just stupid powerful ability. And then closing off with his Gogeta here as well. I believe it is for a certain amount of counts on main ability. It's for 20 counts. You pop his main, he goes type neutral. He's able to nuke on ultimate, or was able to nuke. At this point, this guy needs a Zenkai. But yeah, type neutral being another fantastic ability if you're able to go type neutral. This Gohan, I believe every single time he does proc his unique gauge on right here. So if his gauge is full, so he nullifies unfavorable element factors for 3 timer counts. If his gauge is full, you're going to be able to nuke on blue card any given unit as long as your gauge is full and you pop the blue. And I believe he does, yep. He nullifies own unfavorable element factors for 5 counts on his green card. Very similar to his Vanish Restore. He both restores it on his blue and green. Really quick, so we were talking about type neutrality and how Pan is extremely viable right now, just being the best supported unit in the game. The best partner for Beast Gohan in the game as of the current time as I am recording this video. Our next mechanic that we will be talking about is ally sub count down. So she has a couple of ways that she does do this here with her main here, as you can see. It shortens ally sub count by 3. I believe, substitution count is just insane ability. It's very similar to the Restore Vanish. You're just able to continuously swap and Vanish even more to gain priority. But yes, shortens ally sub count by 3 on main ability. And then on her green card, she does an insane amount of things here. But she also shortens ally substitution count by 3 on green card here. Does she do anything on blue? She shortens substitution count by 5 to self on hit. So just being able to shorten sub count is a ridiculous ability. One mechanic that is definitely worth mentioning is the force swap. So basically with this mechanic, you're able to pretty much proc a swap based on your timing whenever you want to. Basically swapping, say if your opponent that you're facing, your character is at a disadvantage typing, or if, for whatever reason you desire, you basically need to swap your opponent out. All these characters that you do see on the screen have some form of forced swap. With this new, I guess this guy is actually a top 10 unit currently right now with the Zenkai as the time of recording this. But on his green card here, he does proc a forced switch on his green card, inflicts an enemy with forced switching. So you're basically going to throw the character that you're faced against into whatever the next character that he has on his rotation. Same thing with this Namek Goku, I believe, when he's transformed on his green card. Inflicts forced switching on hit. So you're getting all these abilities here, but on his green, he's able to inflict the forced switching. I feel like it's just warranted to talk about because this is an ability that does exist in the game. Not too many characters do have it, but it's on a lot of green cards. As you can see, this Gohan does have inflicts enemy with forced switching as well. This Broly doesn't have it on his green, but it's on his ultimate. So say if you pop his ultimate on a character and it doesn't kill, it doesn't do all the damage necessary, he will still force the enemy to switch to the next character that is next in his rotation, right? So force swap, you can be technical with it and have a certain play where it'll make the most sense to force swap at a certain given time. Moving into our next ability here, similar to, we do have the Goku here again with another insanely powerful ability. Not too many characters do have this ability, but it is extremely valuable. We do have the cover rescue mechanic, and basically it's very similar to a cover change, except, it completely stops your opponent's combo and priority and resets it back to neutral, right? So a lot of these characters do have 2 of these cover rescues. I believe the Goku here does have it. So it's basically, it's embedded in the kits. It's not with a certain card or anything, but he does. So +1 to the amount of cover changes you can be used if there are 2 GT battle members. So his cover change is his cover rescue. So it is just a form of cover change. And if you're using him completely on GT or with that +1, I believe GT, you'll have 2 cover rescues available. The same thing goes for this Gohan. I think it just innately, he has 2 cover rescues. Might have to pop his main or so. Yeah. So if you pop his main, he gets 1 more added to his cover rescue. This classic Cell Saga Goku here has the cover rescue as well. If you pop his main ability, he does get that +1 to his cover rescue type of cover change. And then this Android 21 Good does have the cover rescues. All of them, interestingly enough, that is not the LF4 Ku. If you pop their main abilities, they just innately have a cover rescue, cover change. So it's really good in case of a rising rush or a scenario where you're going to literally just die. Basically, pop that cover change and you'll go back to neutral standing where you're able to gain priority again. And all of them have access to 2 pretty much. All right, jumping into the next ability here, we do have the Boy Beast Gohan representing for the next ability as well. It is going to be card draw speed. This is a pretty common mechanic that multitude of characters do have access to, but, Beast Gohan will represent it here just because he has access to pretty much everything, like I've said in this video. But, yeah, every time he does fill up his unique gauge, he gets access to increase Arts card draw speed by 1. So this, if you have card draw speed, it means you're able to extend combos. You're going to be able to continue doing lots of damage, farming cards, farming Dragon Balls for insta rising rushes, and so on and so forth. So, it's definitely something I couldn't leave out in this video. I definitely won't talk about every single mechanic there is to exist, but I'm trying to break down a lot of the more important ones or things that I can, that are clear as day that you definitely guys should be knowing that these are very powerful things to look out for. Card draw speed is a way to, keep going. If you have priority, if you keep doing cards, extending combos, Broly does have the potential to get increased arts card draw speed by 1 level up to 2 levels. So to have 2 times card draw speed with this guy and everything else he's capable of is kind of just a ridiculous thing. I seen a very powerful ability there. Not a lot of units have this nullify immobilization, but I'll throw this out there. This is a very powerful ability. If you guys do know the first form Frieza, a very common unit that you would see normally. He has that green card, which pretty much stops you from moving for a certain amount of counts, and it leaves you open to anything for a combo, pop main into ultimate into kill, or even a rising rush. So it's very deadly to be immobilized, and this nullify abnormal condition immobilized, or just nullifying abnormal conditions in general, is an extremely powerful ability, warranted to talk about for a quick second here. So I'll just throw that in as one of our powerful mechanics. But yeah, moving into our next very powerful mechanic is going to be the tag switch mechanic. It's very limited and you don't really see too many characters having it, just because of how hype and the potential of what the mechanic can actually do via tag switch, right? On their main abilities, these characters are able to switch out from one character to the next character, and every single time you switch, there is a different set of abilities that do occur. So the tag switch mechanic does allow for a multitude of things to happen right here. As Goku on the Blue Boys tag switch character happened to be the very first one. It's about to be a year since the release with Legends Fist coming around the corner. So if you pop their main ability, he tag switches into Vegeta. He reverses his own element factor, which is the main thing with these tag switches. You're always able to stay on top of things and never really be at a disadvantage if you can tag switch out of it. So you can have either type neutral or even type advantage over your enemy with his tag switch. But he also restores health by 15, ki by 30. He gets card draw speed, which we were talking about, very useful. And 10% to his special damage inflicted, or special move damage inflicted. When you're with your Vegeta character and you tag switch into Goku, he reverses his own element factors back. So, you know, your typing does get switched again. Restores health, 15%, ki by 30, more card draw speed. It's pretty much the same exact ability. You know, it's pretty basic, but you're constantly healing, right? So back and forth, these two characters, if you're switching, you heal by 15% and ki by 30%. So you're getting ki and you're getting health, and you're constantly infinitely healing pretty much. That's what was the main niche behind Blue Boys, made them very, very powerful, is that they can always keep on top of typing, and they were always healing, so they had infinite amounts of health, and just their utility was really good. Blue card potential, them spawning blues on greens, and then just, you know, doing everything else they do. It made it for a very, very powerful mechanic, or just the start of the tag switch series here. You only have one other tag switch mechanic character in the game. It completely outclassed what Blue Boys were and still are. You know, they're just on a whole different league of broken with their tag switch capabilities. Both of them have different abilities on their green cards here, as you can see. On the 17's variant of the green card, it's a long animation. If you get caught, it nullifies cover change. You're getting damage inflicted, you're comboing, you know, we're doing all these abilities that we have talked about during this video. And then if you're on 18 side of the green card, you actually reduce your enemy vanishing gauge by 0, activates once. So it's a form of lock-in, right? If you reduce your enemy vanishes gauge to 0, your enemy pretty much cannot do anything. He can't vanish. He's pretty much trapped there, and you're pretty much going to have to take a combo or even get killed via Rising Rush. They have a mechanic to nullify endurance. This is still one of the most individually broken characters in this game. Because of their their tag switch, they have different abilities on the green card there. Nullifies enemy special actions with cover change. The 17 and 18 both have access to this. But what we really want to see here is their main ability. So every time they switch, they get card draw speed, -20 to own special move, which is really, really good. So they can just guarantee you're going to pop a blue card because you're going to have enough ki for it. Restores own ki by 30. And then 18 is what reduces enemy Dragon Balls by 1. So Dragon Ball manipulation, reduce enemy ki, restores health and ki by 30. Just tag switch mechanic is so busted. And we're probably going to be seeing another variant of tag switch. I'll be talking about it later in this, like, right towards the end of the video. I'll just give you guys a little sneak peek if you don't already know. But we only have 2 tag switch characters in the game right now. And, you know, Blue Boys was broken on release. They fell off quite hard, but even though androids are not extremely relevant in this existing meta when I'm recording this video, individually they're going to just down the line be, you know, one of the best units. They've been so good for so long, which is everything embedded. All the, like, so many mechanics that we talked about in this video, they have it. Whether it's in their green, in their main, innate in their kit, they nullify endurance for existing. These guys are ridiculous. Tag switch, we are on track to get our next tag switch character that could literally break the game. So we'll move on to our final mechanic that I will touch on in this video here. All right, our final mechanic of the video. I'd probably have to say this is probably probably the most busted mechanic to have in the game, you know, is the unique gauge, right? There's only, you know, it was started to be implemented last year. I believe the very first character with unique gauge was the Trunks. This Trunks here, I believe, was the first character. I could be wrong, but I think it started off with this Trunks and then it moved on to Ultra Gogeta. But it basically is an extra set of abilities, extra set of mechanics that if you either fill up your gauge, you're constantly filling up your gauge, or whatever, if you're manipulating the gauge, you have this extra ability that just, you know, extra set of mechanics. We've been talking about it all throughout the video. You know, a lot of these mechanics, these hardcore busted mechanics, are implemented in so many of these characters' unique gauges, and they can constantly be reset and redone, whether with its arts card draw speed, or nullifying typing, or cover change, nullifying cover change, or just all of the above. A lot of these characters do have access to Vanish Restore and like all these crazy things. So starting off with Beast, of course, this is the man of the hour, has everything in the book. His unique gauge is pretty freaking broken. We talked about it before. If his unique gauge is full, he's getting access to all these extra abilities, from going type neutral, his Vanish gauge being restored by 70%. And keep in mind that there is no limitation to this. So every time his gauge is full, which it can constantly be reset to full, he's getting his vanishing gauge restored. He's getting type neutral, busted abilities that you can do from time and time again. If his gauge is full, you're also destroying all your enemy's cards. You're getting, you know, obviously this damage inflicted is, I believe, Not full. Okay, so you're getting a little bit more to your damage inflicted here. I just wanted to read. So you're getting 10% more here. You're going type neutral. You're restoring a Vanish engage by 70%. All the other abilities are right down here. If his unique gauge is full, you're restoring ki by 40. So all these extra abilities that is, you fill up your gauge with beast by doing cards. So you're getting 25% to your damage inflicted. You're getting card draw speed, and you're nullifying cover change. On top of this, you're adding 15% to your ultimate damage inflicted, cannot be canceled, and it's stacked. So this makes Beast Gohan one of the hardest hitting ultimate cards in the game for the fact that you can just endlessly, if you really wanted to, you can endlessly stack your ultimate. So it's 15% every single time you fill up your unique gauge, on top of everything else with your blues and your green cards. One of the most broken uniques in the entire game. Beast Gohan has it. We'll go to the Trunks here, one of the original unique gauge holders here. So once his unique gauge is full, this guy actually needs to be hit about 5 to 6 times before his unique gauge activates and it becomes full. It only activates once. Basically reduces enemy ki by 60, which is a whole lot. So he's pretty much stuck there, unable to do anything. Restores his own health by 15. He gets 40% to his damage inflicted and 40% to his ultimate damage inflicted. So if you're doing an ultimate right after, you get your gauge full, you're extra 80% to damage inflicted. So increases his own arts card draw speed by 1. And yeah, it's a heck of a lot of stuff there as well. But yeah, his unique gauge was pretty busted. Is still really good. Pretty really good. Oh, that's how you know I am tired. But definitely a video worth making for you guys. This guy's unique gauge is actually pretty freaking cool. Every time he fills up his unique gauge, he gets a blue card. So once unique gauge is full, it resets to 0, applies the following effects to self. He draws a blue card. Every single time he fills up his gauge, he gets a blue card. He restores health by 15, ki by 40, 20% to damage inflicted, and reduces next damage to stand by 20. Keep in mind, that blue card also empties out your enemy's hand. So, I will say that this is definitely a top 3 mechanic in the game, just because of the amount of depth it holds for a character, right? They have their own unique, this is what makes them like completely broken, other than all the mechanics they already hold. This Kaioken has pretty much infinite vanishes. Like, he's I don't know why I didn't mention him when we were talking about Vanish Restore. This was a character to mention with Vanish Restore in that segment. We're mentioning it now. His green card. Let's go to where his gauge is, right here. So, this is all the things. Okay, so this guy has a lot of stuff. Once the unique gauge is full, it resets to 0 and applies the following effects to self. Draws a special arts card next, so he's constantly drawing green cards. Every single time he's drawing a green card. So the green card gives him 30% to damage inflicted, 10%. You can build up your ultimate 5, up by 50% if you fill it 5 times. Randomly draws. It's not long to fill up this gauge either, because this is a gauge where all you have to do is charge, I believe, right? All you have to do is charge to fill up your gauge, which makes it one of the more easier gauges to fill up. Draws a special arts card next. It restores his own health by 15, so he's constantly healing, activates 7 times. His strike arts damage goes up to 80%, so you need to fill it up twice to increase your strike damage. Increase 40% to next blast arts damage, inflicted up to 80%, so fill it up twice for blast arts. Fill it up twice for blue card damage as well, so just your unique gauge helping you do even more damage. And then reduces next sustained damage by 20%. Restores vanishing gauge by 100%, activates 5 times. So every single time you fill up your gauge, if you're doing a lot, there's a lot of opportunity and technical plays that you can do with this Kaioken, where you're doing a combo, charge step card, charge step combo, and then right at the end, you can vanish out of your enemy's attack, PV, whatever the case, charge a little bit more, fill up your gauge, get your vanish 100% restored. For the next combo, it's busted. His unique gauge is completely ridiculous. I think his main issue currently is just being paper and then not doing enough damage. But his technical support, his potential, combo potential, healing, damage, stacking, everything just with the unique gauges are ridiculous. MUI has a very specific, unique gauge. It's pretty much the auto dodge mechanic, free damage. Basically, let me just throw some more busted mechanics that I didn't mention throughout the entire video, just because MUI Goku is the only one to have access to this guaranteed auto clash win, right? This character will automatically win most Dokabaki impacts and inflict damage to the enemy when forced when 2 forward charging attack strikes and ultimate arts. So he's the only character in the game that when you clash with another character, he auto wins. Auto win Dokabaki is a broken mechanic. The only character in the game that has it is this MUI Goku. On top of that, his consumes 30% of this character unique gauge to activate evade against the following enemies will stand or slide moving still, and then evadable attacks or strike and blast arts and tap attacks, right? So if your opponent goes for a strike or blast, not only will you not be injured, not be hit as long as you have gauge filled, you will also do free damage, quite a bit of damage as well, to your opponent based on how much of your, don't know why I'm stuck in track here, but basically you're going to be doing free damage for this. That's his unique gauge typing here. So you have the ability to not be hit, and you have the ability to do counter damage, free counter damage. It's another busted unique ability or unique gauge ability just because he's the only one in the game that has it other than the UI Omen. He has a very similar unique gauge, but it doesn't do free damage. So as long as you have your gauge filled, you're popping green cards to continuously fill that gauge, you have access to free time to stall, free time to think about plays, to bait your opponents into clashes where you're going to free gain priority because of the Dokabaki auto win. And MUI just has a busted broken mechanic kit. To close it off here, there's a couple other characters that have unique gauges, similar to like Dragon Fist. Once you fill up his gauge by using cards, you're going to just do a shitload of ultimate damage. This Broly does so much after his unique gauge is filled. As you can see here, when his unique gauge is filled, he does have the universal cover change I mentioned earlier. He can cover. He's the only character other than the Bojack that can cover blue cards. But yeah, this guy is completely slept on. But once his unique gauge is full, it resets to 0 and the following effects occur. It reduces enemy vanishing gauge to 0. So it leaves them completely in the open, activates 4 times. That's a busted mechanic implemented within the mechanic of the unique gauge itself, right? Reduces enemy ki, randomly destroys 1 enemy card, reduces enemy Dragon Balls, it has Dragon Ball manipulation, restores own health, applies buff effect, nullifies cover change, cancels his own attribute downgrades. The cover or the unique gauge just system with all the characters that it does have is a broken mechanic, and we're gonna see towards this Legends Fest here they're gonna drop probably another tag switch character and more characters with a special unique gauge. If a new character that comes out has either one of those things, definitely know it's going to be something good, something ridiculous, something broken. But I hope this video was very informative to you. I'm sorry if I got caught up a little bit here. I've been recording for quite a while trying to make this video possible, but if you guys did find this video informative, make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you guys do happen to be new to the channel. I'm going to jump in really quickly. If you haven't seen some of the leaks, I might as well show you while in this video. Taking a quick look here on Twitter, this is my good friend Grazdog. He is a data miner. Basically, he's able to go into the game files and kind of see what is going to drop next potentially. And this card was data mined. I made a video about it the other day. It's basically an ultimate arts and a transforming arts at the same exact time. So like when you pop this, what I'm assuming happens is a character will transform. And this, kind of sets us up into speculating the next tag unit, which will probably be the tag Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. And then once they pop this ultimate, somehow they get access to this ultimate, whether it's via green card, whether it's something that happens in game. Another broken mechanic will be this ultimate into transforming. Once a character transforms, all their stats increase. They get sets, a bunch of different abilities and other niche mechanics. And on top of that, another thing got data mined from Graz here. As you can see, we do have more assets to this unique, what is it called? Glass Hour or Hourglass, whatever this is called, but Hourglass right here. So basically, it is just this looks like a type of unique gauge. So this is the next unique gauge that we're probably going to be seeing in the game. The next busted, timed, transforming fusion, whatever the case it is. If it's something timed, you can expect it to be broken, right? Timing is not great. I would not consider anything that's timed really good because it only lasts so long. But this Hourglass thing looks very cool. Looks like the type of unique gauge. This tag switch into ultimate, transforming, whatever, looks really cool. So new mechanics incoming, more for us to talk about in future videos. I really do think this is going to be tagged Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta fused into Gogeta. It only makes sense. And then while they're in this Gogeta state with this hourglass, they'll have a timed transformation, and they'll probably be broken and have like so many accessible abilities, whether it's type neutral, cover nullification, nullify endurance for exist, whatever you name it. Let me know what you guys think that the new character is going to have in the description or in the comment section below, bro. I said description. Thank you guys so much. Let me know if you find this video informative. If you want me to make more breakdown videos like this in the future, I'll see you guys in the very next one. Stay frosty, and I'm out.
Up all night.